Sing our song before we start our sermon. Now, dear Lord, as we pray, take our hearts and minds far away from the press of the world all around to your throne where grace does abound. May our lives be transformed by your love. May our souls be refreshed from above. At this moment, let people everywhere join us now as we come to you in prayer. Into my heart, come into my heart, Lord Jesus, come in today, come in to stay, come into my heart, Lord Jesus. All right. So, we're on our series, How to Be Rich. And this is our third part. If you guys missed it, we've been recording it, so it's on YouTube if you want to look at the other two series. So let's review really, really quickly. Okay? Because we talked about the danger of money. Okay? We said money is a good thing in itself. God has given us money. But a lot of time, money controls us. Right? So what are some of the things? We actually talked about 4 different things that happen because of money, or because of love of money, right? Because of greed. One of the things that happens is, number 1, you become arrogant. You think because you make a lot of money that you think you know everything. And what happens if you become arrogant? Then you don't become teachable. You think you know everything. Okay? Second thing that happens is you become foolish. In what sense foolish? You become foolish in the sense that you think money is everything. You start relying on money. Okay? Third thing that happens is you become trapped in money. Last week we talked about why we don't feel rich, even though we are filthy, filthy rich. Many of the times we don't feel rich. Why? Because we're trapped, and also because we're addicted. Okay? And because every addict, right? No one goes, "Oh, I had enough." No, they go, "I want more. I want more. I want more." And that's exactly what we do with money. And because of that, we never find contentment. And so we talked about the dangers of money. And now we're going to say, okay, if that is the case with money, then we need to be very careful because the Bible gives us a lot of different things about money. So how do we use money correctly? Okay? So now, the next 2 parts, we're going to talk about how to use money wisely. Okay, what does Jesus tell us about money? So again, this is very important. You need to either control your money or your money will control you. So one more time. If you don't control your money, money will control you. And this is what the Bible says over and over and over and over again. Okay, so we're going to try to learn how do we control our money. We're going to be reading from Luke chapter 16, 1 through 14. This is a parable that Jesus has spoken of. This is actually one of those parables that a lot of people actually avoid because it's kind of confusing. But we're going to go over it together. Luke chapter 16, 1 through 14. This is the word of God. And Jesus also said to the disciples, there was a rich man who had a manager. And charges were brought to him that this man was wasting his possessions. And he called him and said to him, hey, what is this I hear about you? Turn in the account of your management, for you no longer can be a manager. And the manager said to himself, what shall I do, since my master is taking the management away from me? I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I have decided what to do, so that when I am removed from management, people may receive me into their houses. So, summoning his master's debtors, one by one, he said to the first, how much do you owe my master? He said, 100 measures of oil. He said to him, take your bill. Sit down quickly. Write 50. And he said to another, how much do you owe? He said, 100 measures of wheat. He said to them, take your bill and write 80. The master commanded the dishonest manager for his shrewdness. For the sons of the world are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourself by means of unrighteous wealth, so that when it fails, they may receive you into the eternal dwellings. One who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much. And one who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. If then you have not been faithful in the unrighteous wealth, who will entrust you to the true riches? And if you have not been faithful in that which is another's, who will give you that which is your own? No servants can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. And this is a very famous verse that comes, you cannot serve God and money. The Pharisees, who were lovers of money, heard all these things, and they ridiculed him. This is the word of God. Now, you guys can see right away why this verse is avoided by many pastors and many Christians. Why? Because it seems like Jesus is almost condoning something that seems almost illegal or kind of like under the table. It just kind of seems corrupt in some sense. What is the narrative? The narrative is we have this rich person, the CEO, and he has designated a manager to take care of his money. So he's also the COO, which is the operating officer who controls all the management, but he's also the CFO, which is the financial officer as well. So the rich guy, he's like, hey, I entrust you with all my stuff and my money too. You take care of it. What's the problem? He's wasting it away. Okay? Now he's thinking, okay, I'm going to get fired because the boss found out. Okay, what do I do? Okay, I don't like digging. I don't want to do manual labor. I'm too ashamed to beg. So what do? Hey, I'm going to make some relationships. Okay, I'm going to make some hookups. Okay, so what he does is he calls them and he says, hey, how much you owe? 50% off. Okay, you like me now, right? Hire me, okay, when I get fired. That's what he's basically doing. Now, this is the interesting part. The interesting part is when the manager or the rich person actually comes in and sees him doing this, he's like, good job, man. And you're like, what's going on here? Okay, and this is for us where like it's verse 8, which is like the manager comes in and manager says, good job. Good job for being shrewd. And we don't get it. Now, there's a lot of different explanation, but I think this explanation, for me at least, it makes the most sense. But don't get distracted because there is still a main point. And whatever reason this is, okay, that doesn't really matter too much because Jesus has told us what the real point is. But before that, okay, so why is he saying this? Maybe, okay, and we don't know exactly, But during that time, what managers would do, and sometimes what people would do, is they have the loan, okay, and what they do is not only do they charge the loan that the boss wants, they also put in their own fees to it. Okay, because these are desperate people. These are people who need money, so they take advantage. So most likely what happened was this manager or this this broker, he probably put his own fees in there. And because of that, people were not paying him back because they were too poor. And so that's why all the boss was losing money. And so when the boss comes in and says, hey, good job, because number one, you're giving me money back that I needed. Number two, you're giving a good name for me. Because now all the people are going to be happy with me. Okay? Again, we don't know exactly what happened, but that seems like the reason why, okay, this boss comes in and actually commands it. But don't forget the point, because in verse 8 and verse 9, this is his point. His point is, he's being smart like the people in the secular world. How secular people use wealth is better than my disciple. Because if you look at the beginning, he's talking to the disciples. But also, we also see that he's talking loud enough where the Pharisees around him could hear as well. Okay? So he's talking to the disciples, but he's talking loud enough where the Pharisees are offended when they hear this. But what he's basically saying, his point is, we need to use money wisely. How? Like the people who don't believe in God. They use it more wisely than believers. Okay, what is he talking about here? And that's what we're gonna slowly go over. Okay? But first of all, one of the points that we have to remember is number one, it describes each and every one of us not as owners of money, but as managers of money. Okay? Now, the words that a lot of people use is, I'm going to skip this. The word that a lot of people use, manager. Another word that Christians use a lot is the word steward. Okay, if you're in the business world, then you're going to be more comfortable with words like broker. Okay? So the first point that Jesus wants to tell us is, number one, all of us are not owners. All of us are managers, stewards, or a broker. Okay. What does that mean? That means that we need to stop using the money that we have as our own. Okay? If you're managing someone else's money, okay, you can't use it however you want. And that's kind of the problem that this manager was having, right? This manager, he made it seem like it was his money. And he's like, I'm going to spend it however I want. I'm going to spend all this interest and do whatever I want. But Jesus is saying, no. Remember, you're just the manager. Okay? You don't own this. I have entrusted you with this money, and I want you to use it in the way that I have told you to use it. And that's the whole problem, right? He's not using it that way. What does that mean for us? That means we also need to use the money that we have been given in the way that God has told us. Now, you don't like that, huh? You guys like that? Any of you guys like that? You guys are like, yay! What a great sermon. I'm so glad I'm here at church today listening to this one. No, I mean, most of us, most of us, we don't like this. Americans, we don't like this. Why? Because we go, no, God, this is not God's money. What are you talking about? I've earned this. Okay, does God not know how hard I worked to be in the position that I am? Does He not know how hard I work every single day? Does He not know how hard I studied? But really, if you think about it, everything that has given to you is from God. A couple of things. Number one, you're alive. That's a pretty big factor in making money, right? The fact that you're even alive today. That's from God. How about health? The fact that some of you guys, maybe some of you guys are not healthy to work, but most of you guys are healthy enough to work. Even that in itself. I know there's a lot of questions like, how comes these bad things happen to some people? But I want to look at the other perspective. The other perspective is, why don't more people actually get sick? I was reading a book, and it was talking about a medical student who started studying. And I don't know, maybe some of you doctors maybe feel this way. But she was studying, and she was like, it's surprising that people actually just don't break down and die. And I don't know if you guys ever felt that way. But even the fact that we're healthy, that in itself, again, is a gift from God. Okay? Think about your talents that you guys have. Think about the circumstances that you guys are put in. Yes, of course, you have used those circumstances to be at where you guys are at. But imagine this. Imagine if you were this kid. This is a picture that I took when I went to India in 2011. Okay, this is the kid. And you see in the back, this is a trash dump. Okay? And this is what she calls home. This is what she calls playground. This is what she calls siblings. This is what she calls environment. This is what she calls school. Okay? The fact that we're healthy, that we were born. Maybe some of you guys had a tough, growing up, but the fact that you guys are able to have education, talents, circumstances, no. You have to understand everything that you have is from God. You worked hard with the talents God has given you, with the circumstances He has given you. And that's why you're even able to make money. It's like this. You know how sometimes, if you guys are parents, your kids want to buy you like gifts for your birthday, but they don't have money. So what do? You give them money so they can buy something for you. And they come and they're like, Dad or Mom, look what I did for you. Look at all the effort I went, to receive money from you and buy this stuff from you. Again, that's exactly what we do, God. We don't, look all the stuff I did. We have to understand everything that we have is from God, and it is also God's as well. So the first thing we have to understand is what? Not, I own this money. Not, this is my money. But everything that we have is God's money. So, the question is not, okay, how do I get inspired by the sermon today so I can spend my money for God? That's not it. How can I find emotion today? How can I feel loved by God so that He can inspire me to give more money and be more generous? No, that's the wrong question still. Why? Because you're still calling it your money. What we have to understand, through this parable, is that we're managers. In 1 Timothy 6, we talked about it last week. We are born with nothing, and we will die with nothing. Nothing is ours. Everything is God's. God is the owner. So we have to spend it how He wants us to spend it. So, the question that we need to be asking is, God, how do I spend your money? God, how do I invest in your money today? Is that our thought? Is that how we think when we spend money? This is Ellen White. She says this: some think that only a portion of their means is the Lord's. And she's talking about tithe. when they have set a portion for God, for religious and charitable purposes, they regard the remainders as their own, to be used as they fit. But in this, they mistake. What is she saying? She's saying normally how we think of it is, okay, yeah, 10%, of course, that's God, that's tithe. But 90%, that's all for me. That's not biblical. Yes, absolutely, 10%, you must give that to God. But still, that 90%, that's God's money. You still need to make sure that you use it in the way that God has instructed you with. You're a manager. You own nothing. You're going to die with nothing. She continues on. All we possess is the Lord's. And we are accountable to Him for the use we make of it. In the use of every penny, it will be seen whether we love God supremely and our neighbors as ourselves. This is a radical statement. What is she saying? She's saying how we use our money will show whether we love God and love our neighbors or not. Is the way you use money, does it show that God is the ultimate owner? Or when people see you using money, they go, that's his money, and he's using it whatever he wants to do. Or that's her money, she could do whatever she, look at the stuff she's buying. Okay? Is it uplifting God? If they just looked at how you spend money, are non-Christians able to see that and go, wow, this person is different? This is what Ellen White is saying. So again, the question that we need to ask is not, how do I use my money for God? How do I get inspired for God? How do I open my heart for God? No. It's, how do I use God's money? How do I use the money God has given me? Second part. And we're going to go to the hard part now. Verse 8. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to what? To gain friends for yourselves. That's the point. This is the point. He's saying, use money. This is how I want you to use money. Use money for relationships. What kind? So that when it is gone, when the money is disappeared, when you have invested money into relationships, then you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Sounds familiar? Make relationships for what? For eternal dwelling. I'm not making this stuff up, guys. Okay? This is from the Bible. So what does that tell you? Oh, that fits our vision statement. It's right there. It's right there outside, right? So what? What do we need to do? We need to spend greatly. Okay, do you guys remember greatly? Grow relationships that last for eternity. That's our right? That's our mission statement. And that's what he's telling us to do. So he's using an argument like this. He says, if this, how much more than you? So he's saying, if people, in the secular world, what they do is they go, okay, what can I do to make money? So it's all about cost-benefit analysis, right? Basically, worldly people, all they do is, okay, I'm going to do all I can to make maximum amount of money with this amount, right? This is what they do. So they're able or they're willing to forego, right, immediate gains if they know that they're going to have a large gain at the end. And so Jesus is saying, do the same thing. Be willing to let go of your selfish desires, your selfish pleasures. For what? For bigger things. For relationships that will last for eternity. He's saying, if secular people are doing this, you see, this manager, he knows that relationships are going to be important. He knows that he's going to use relationships for the future. Do the same thing. He's smart. You guys do the same thing. Use your wealth in the way where you can make a relationship that will matter in eternity. That's what he's saying. Because we know this, right? We know when Jesus says, do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal. I mean, we know. We know that none of this stuff is totally safe. We think it is. We hope it is, but you know that we're going to die with nothing. An author, he continued on, and he said this. He said, fire consumes, and we're very aware of this as there's a lot of wildfire in California right now. He said, fire consumes, floods destroy, governments seize, enemies attack, investment goes sour, no earthly treasure is safe. Nothing's safe. So that's why Jesus is telling us to spend greatly. We need to use our money in the way where we can make relationships for eternity. And that's what our church is trying to do here. It's not, hey, let's just come together, let's have a social gathering, let's have fun, and let's just go. Nothing. No spiritual revival, no prayer, nothing. No. What we're really desiring is, hey, we want to make a little glimpse of heaven here. We want to show people that this is what it's going to be like in heaven. That even though we're all messed up, that we're able to accept one another. That we're able to forgive one another. And we're going to still love one another. So we need to spend money on things that will last. Again, that's people. Again, deep down inside, we know this, right? I mean, I talked to, there was a couple of, I think it was last year, there was a big fire in Santa Rosa, right? Was it last year? I think it was last year or 2 years ago. And one of the elders I went to church with, his house basically went on fire. Okay? He lost everything. Okay? He had a car in there. He couldn't find the keys. He had to leave. It's gone. Really, really nice car. But so I talked to him, and I was like, are you okay? Everything okay? And he's like, in the end, who cares? My family's safe. That's all that matters. I mean, in the end, that's all we want, right? We know that it's relationship in the end, right? No one you guys heard this so many times. No one in their deathbed are thinking, man, I should have made more money. What the heck? Why did I do that? I should have made more. How come I didn't invest? No, we're not going to do that. What we're going to be thinking is, man, how come I just didn't say sorry? How come I just didn't, just make up? How come I should have, I love my husband or my kids so much, how come I didn't show them? That's what we're going to be thinking about. And that's what Jesus is saying. Jesus is saying, hey, you guys know how important relationships are. Deep down inside, all of us know. Invest in that. The only way we're going to have eternal relationship is only if we're able to use our money, or not our money, use God's money wisely in relationships, in things that last. That's what Jesus is saying. He's saying, be smart about my money, please. You guys are all my brokers. Okay? I want you to spend it in things that are going to last. That's what basically the parable is. Be smart. Secular people, they know. You guys do that too. How are you spending God's money? Is this your approach to the possessions that God has given you? Now, where do we get the power to do this? Because I don't know about you guys, but when I was studying this, I was like, This is way too hard. Where do we get the power to do this? 2 Corinthians 8:9. For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor, so that you through his poverty might become rich. What is he saying? Paul's saying, Jesus is the wise manager. He had all this money. He had all this money. And he's like, you know what? I'm willing to use all of this, forego all of this, for what? For who? For relationships, for us. He became poor. Why? So that we can become rich with him. That we can have a relationship with him. The only way we're going to understand, or the only way we're going to be moved enough, the only way we can understand this concept is if we realize we are the beneficiary of this grace. We are the receiver of what it means that a rich person became poor for us. What generosity really means. And this is what God is calling us to do. He's not calling us to do anything that he hasn't done. He says, this is how much I'm willing to do for you. This is how precious and how valuable each and every one of you are. Are you willing to do the same for me? I have given you all this stuff. Are you willing to use this money for my cause? Everything else will disappear. Only relationships. It is only eternal relationships that will last. For time of reflection, let me pass out these things first. So I'm going to give you guys homework, and don't worry, you don't have to return these things to me. Only God will know. But I'm going to give you guys ledger sheets. Okay, ledger sheets are basically what you're going to do is for the next week, I want you to write down everything that you spend, everything that you use money. Okay, and I just want you to write it down. Okay, I just want you to be cognizant, right? Because that's what managers do, right? Managers, they don't just go, hey, boss, give me all this money. Broker doesn't go, oh, boss, you gave me all this money, but I used it however I wanted. No, we don't do that, right? So I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to encourage you guys to take these and write down how you spend your money for the next week. You know what? If 1 week is too much for you guys, then just do one day. Okay? Sunday, Monday. Just pick one day and do it. Okay? That doesn't seem too hard, right? So I want you guys to take those. Again, you don't have to return it to me. Okay? Again, I'm not your owner. I'm not your boss. God is. One more thing. When we go into our reflection time, this time I want to give you kind of like a guided reflection time. As we go into our reflection time, I want you guys to kind of just surrender, and I'm just going to guide you along. And I want you guys to just really surrender and once again recognize that God is the owner of everything. So if you guys could close your eyes with me. The first thing I want you guys to think about is your car or cars that you have. And I want you to say, God, this is your car. I want to use it in the way you want me to use it. So I want you to surrender that. Next thing is our house or houses. Or even if you're renting. God, you're the one who has given me opportunity to be in a house. How do you want me to use it for you? Next, money. Lord, it is your money. How do you want me to use my money today, this week? And lastly, anything that you can think of that you need to surrender to God. Whether it's a sin that you're holding on to, that you're dancing with, that God has been telling you over and over again to let go. Maybe it's your fears. Maybe it's anger, resentment. God is saying, let go. If you guys could sing with me. I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, Jesus. As behavior, I surrender. Let's sing that one more time. I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all. Amen. We're going to go into time of offering.